if you were to just have some pre-designed fish pass dropped in, yes, you can be fairly sure that if it's done correctly, it will pass a kind of fish. Fish will get through it. Some fish will get through, some might struggle, but there will always be a flow condition or some time of the year because of water temperature that those fish meeting that obstacle and that fishway will struggle.
Yeah.
Because fish require not only what we think are the right conditions for passage, what they actually, when they want to move in the river, is not really always under the right conditions that we dictate a fish pass to work in.
Yes.
So this bypasses that. It allows them the opportunity under low flow conditions to come and find the channel that's there. But under high flow, there will be dozens of channels opening up that they can choose. We're not saying you must go there. There's so many examples where a fish pass has been used that fish will not use it. They will find an alternative route.
Yeah.
And here you're actually promoting those alternative routes under high water conditions, whereas not limiting them to move if they want to when it's low flow. So, you know, you're not imposing those conditions that we believe they should be adhering to.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely right, and I think something that people often don't consider or forget to consider is that if fish are waiting at the bottom of a fish pass for the correct flows to go up it, they're really, really vulnerable to predation. They're a sitting duck for poachers, and of course they might be angled to a greater extent than they otherwise would be, so they become very vulnerable when they're held up. So even if there is a fish pass, such as an Irinier or an Alaskan type pass, a technical solution, you could actually introduce those fish to increase vulnerability in that regard as well. And the technical passes, they work well. They're designed to work for salmonids, so your salmon and your sea trout. But eels and lampreys, weaker swimming fish, might struggle to get up a pass like that. You would have to then put in a separate solution for other species. This deals with everything in one stroke.
It does, and every time you introduce a new type of fish passage solution, you introduce a new set of problems with it. Potential blockages, potential maintenance. Is it going to work exactly the same way as you expect it to? Here you're letting the fish decide whether it works or not, because they can find new routes, and they can come whenever they want, under whichever flow conditions they arrive at the base of the structure in, they will find a route that will let them go by. So the eels, which will probably come out and utilise wetted areas around here. Lampreys can also kind of use their suckers to get up some structures, but they are not very good at sustaining that for a long length of time. So you've got lovely pools here for fish to rest in, to regain their strength if they need to do that. If the water levels drop, they can actually find their own way through rather than being told this is your only option. Please, can you have a go at it? So this is a good point, and it's something I come across a lot, is in rivers where we have got these built structures in place. People go and do surveys and they say, yes, there are fish upstream from that structure, and so therefore they tick a box and say it works. But it doesn't. It's not as simple as that, because the numbers of fish upstream, for very many different reasons, can compensate for a lack of passage through a structure. But actually, what we don't know is whether those structures themselves are only allowing a certain type of fish in terms of size, or a fish that's maybe entering that river or trying to get up past that structure at some time of year. So all the other fish that try to get up through there that are unsuccessful, we have no knowledge of how important they are to the upstream population. So although we can have these solutions that look grand and they do work, there's no doubt they pass fish, they will have some selection capacity there, which we really should be a little bit wary of, I think, when we have other solutions available.
Do you mean, for example, that a technical solution may select for larger bodied fish, or stronger swimmers, that sort of thing?
Yeah, I do. I mean, not necessarily larger or stronger, but it might be that at a certain time of the year when a particular run of fish comes to that structure, water temperature is a key thing that dictates the ability of the fish to swim for a certain length over a certain speed. And so it could actually be that it works in the favour of small fish in some situations and large fish in others. Now, why do we want to try and impose that on what is essentially a natural system? We really should know better than to try and always opt for that when we have other solutions available now.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
So it's just we've come across a situation where the same solution has been used at the very top of a system as at the very bottom, and fish actually coming in from the sea, when they come in, for example salmonids coming in from the sea, are really strong swimming and they're really full of energy when they come to the first barrier, and they can often get through quite difficult conditions, but as those fish move up the system they actually weaken. They're using up energy reserves, so every time they come to a new barrier their ability to actually pass that barrier is reducing.
That's right, because they're not feeding.
Exactly.
They're simply swimming off their marine reserves.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, that's really interesting. So by the time they get near the top of the system, maybe a technical solution isn't even working particularly well for salmonids.
Exactly, and also you've got the time of year to think of, because the fish coming in at the bottom of the system might come in when the water temperature is quite warm, and by the time they get to the top of the system the water temperature could be 7-8 degrees less, and that has an effect upon the physiology of the fish and their ability to swim across structures that may be very easy for them in the summer when they're full of energy. So we need to be careful where we put things, and ultimately at every stage of the game, if you can have something that passes fish at whatever stage and with the least amount of stress, then that's a win-win situation.
The more natural an option that you can come up with, the better in pretty much all circumstances.
I think that's it. Where we're trying to, we're doing our best to replicate nature and provide it with a template for not only the surrounding land to colonise, but the aquatic community. But fish, they need that. They need the options. You know, we can't second guess them. They know best, and they will find those crazy options if we give them to them. It's when we don't give it to them that's when the problems really start.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. Well listen, thank you so much for coming down to have this wee chat today. I found it really useful, and there's something I really enjoy. It's spending a little bit of time talking to an expert or a specialist and just learn so much from them, and it's been really interesting, so thanks very much.
Thanks, Joe. It's been a pleasure being here. We appreciate it. Thank you.